Welcome back, horror fans, cinephiles, and Giallo enthusiasts. This is Tanner Leeser, your host for all things Giallo and Giallo adjacent here on The King and Giallo, and it's time to continue this series of unscripted talking head movie reviews for the 4 French thriller films from this box set from Vinegar Syndrome. I covered the first 2, Who and Golden Knight, and now it's time for The Cousins. And let's get right into it. As you probably know by now, I can't talk about French movies until... All right, I'm getting better at putting the beret on faster. Okay, jump right into it. This is another 1970 film. I believe Who was also 1970. Okay, so interestingly, the IMDb description for this movie is way more simple, obviously, than what the description was for Vinegar Syndrome. I'll read that as well, just because there was one thing that I did want to mention. Okay, but the IMDb plot synopsis is: a disabled young woman is tormented by 2 female cousins who play sexual games while she's unable to escape from them, which is, apt. The description on the Vinegar Syndrome website is: Lucile, paralyzed and mute from a childhood trauma, lives with her sister Josine and their cousin Elisa. While the mother of Lucile and Josine frets over increasing costs and the complications of Lucile reaching legal age, Josine and Elisa live reckless lives of sexual abandon while mentally and physically torturing Lucile, their powerless victim. Playing their cruel games, getting high, and seducing men aren't enough for these 2. They're in search of darker, sadistic kicks. Also released as From Ear to Ear. This shocker of modernity and liberated morals was directed by veteran cinematographer Louis Soulanes. I can't try with French names. I spent however many years trying to get good with just Italian names. But anyways, that's an apt description, but the reason why I wanted to read it from the Vinegar Syndrome website was it kind of prepared me for something darker than what I got. It was dark. Let me tell you, it especially got really pretty sinister in the last 15 minutes, but I was kind of expecting that they were going to be burning cigarettes on her or something truly horrific, and it is bad, but let me just get into it. Okay, so we meet these women, and they live in this really interesting little manor or chateau, whatever you would call it, villa. It's a very kind of long, relatively thin kind of house. It's very tall also, and so a lot of the scenes are up in the top floor, and you can see the walls kind of cave in towards the center, peek in, steeple in. Interestingly, I did not really anticipate this based off of the description, but I assumed we were really going to be following Lucile. For lack of a better word, she's an invalid. And it made sense that we didn't really, because she can't talk or do much of anything. In fact, in the movie, the only thing she can really do is move her eyes and kind of react with just her eyes. I thought the actress did fine. I don't know people in this situation, so I don't know if it was spot on or if it was hammed up or if it was whatever. But I did think, just for me, movies doing things like this, it's always a little bit this is just going to be kind of a rough watch. Yeah, so we're following the main 2 cousins, and the mom will come home, and we meet the mom's lawyer, and there's trouble, obviously. A lot of the money has to go to Lucile's medication, and we pick up on a lot of things right away in the first 10-15 minutes. For one, the cousins have a very close relationship in a way that's maybe some girls will be yeah, I used to snuggle with my cousin very lovingly, and we would pet each other and things like that. But in the way the movie's doing it, I'm this seems overtly, obviously kind of romantic, kind of sexual. Like I said, it's not I have a lot of experience with witnessing sisters or cousins doing this, so it's not oh yeah, it's normal. But I mean, I think for some people it is kind of normal. It all depends. But I'm saying, the way the movie was playing it, it felt very the mom doesn't say anything, or she's oblivious, and you realize also that the mom is hooking up with the lawyer, and it's mentioned that things are going to be rougher once Lucile actually becomes of age. I don't know if it's exactly the property is supposed to be split partially to her, or if it's just there's not going to be as much help. I don't recall exactly what the circumstances were. All we know is that it's going to be harder once she becomes an adult. And you also see that everybody is like tired of taking care of this girl. The mom is a little bit more sympathetic, but the cousins, the sister and the other cousin are very like they shit talk her every time they go up to feed her. And initially the like abuse wasn't horrible. It was just, it felt very human. Like they're annoyed that, that they can't have nice meals. They can't save money for this or that. The younger women, who by the way don't really look that young, they need to have part-time jobs. Everybody needs to be working because a lot of the money goes to just taking care of the invalid Lucile. And like I said, they're understandably all upset with her. And it'll start with like kind of just pushing her face one way or saying something mean or maybe even slapping her. But it's not so over the top, but as it goes on, it gets worse. The cousin realizes that she can terrorize Lucile with a doll, this little doll that has like no arms. And when she holds it up, Lucile seems to really freak out. And then there's a part where the sister blasts a radio and she hangs the radio from the wheelchair. And when the cousin then discovers this, she seems sympathetic, but she doesn't say anything like, "You poor thing." She's just like, she should know better. Batteries are expensive. And so I will say it was also a little bit of a rough watch because it's a kind of a slow burn. And a lot of these things that are happening are not particularly exciting. And on top of that, the characters that we're following are all kind of bad people, or at least just not overly interesting. And this description here in the Vinegar Syndrome, where it says it's the shocker of modernity and liberated morals, I'm like, yeah, that's a good way to put it. I was going to say, as I was watching it, that if Who felt like a Umberto Lenzi type of proto-Giallo, the ones that I also call Les Diaboliques-esque, which I got to come up with a new name for that, but it's the type of Giallo where it's like, is this person really dead? Am I going crazy? What will we find out in the end? If that French movie was kind of like that type of Giallo, and Golden Knight was kind of like a film noir inspired Giallo, and that's generous even saying that, this one, The Cousins, was closer to a elites behaving badly type of 60s Giallo, where it's like, or this one's actually not elites though. Well, they do have a nice house, but not so much elites, but it's just the whole idea of a very common thing in this era, especially in Europe, where it's like, we have to attack just normal life. It's so horrible. We all have a roof to live under and we have money. It's so horrible. I'm so bored. So yeah, as certain kind of social critique movies like that are not my favorite, not my cup of tea. I at least think that the elites behaving badly one is interesting because it kind of shows the moral rot of some of these people. Like, they have everything that they could possibly want, yet they're still unhappy. This one, it made sense though. It's like, well, the family almost kind of talks about like as if she wasn't alive, as if they could get rid of her. And there were some hints that the movie was dropping beforehand, like the cousin is hooking up with her boyfriend, and afterwards they're talking about Lucile, and she says, what is her name? Elisa. She says that something happened to her cousin when she was younger, like 10 years old, 8, 9, 10 years old, something like that. Something happened to her that made her traumatized. And so her assumption is that if something traumatic on the same scale were to happen to her, that she would be cured. And I'm like, okay, well, that's probably going to happen. Thank you for giving me that bit of information. I'm assuming that's going to happen. And then we get this other bit of information from, I think, the sister talking to this neighbor, and she's telling him about, my mom seems really depressed. She is depressed. It's because, our father died like 11 years ago, and on top of that, they had she had a son, but the son died due to these complications, and so she's mourning for the dead son, for her dead husband, and for herself. And so the fact that she also did not mention Lucile as like another reason why she's grieving, it seemed to indicate, okay, well, that seems to have happened after this whole event. But yeah, they gave us that, and I'm thinking, I wonder if that comes up again. But anyways, let's get into like what happens. So that's basically like the first kind of hour is just that, and the girls are setting up like, hey, we should have a party. We should see if Mr. Mr. Borgo, I think it was his name, if he can take mom out for like 2 days, and that way we can actually have like a party with a lot of people. And funny enough, the one cousin, she kind of starts kissing the man who's sleeping with the mom. It's just like, God, these kids, or adults playing kids. I don't even know how old they're supposed to be. Like I said, they don't really look like they're in their 20s, but it's France. Maybe they're all just chain smokers. But lo and behold, we get to the point where they are having a party. And speaking of which, by the way, before this, there's been, like I said, there have been escalations. It has been like one of the cousin has been a little gropey with her sister, or with her invalid cousin, or she would like make her touch her breast. Certain things that it's like, I feel like I know where this movie's about to go. And then the boyfriend even said something about like maybe he could take care of her, give her an emotional shock that will wake her up. And so you kind of feel like something like that is going to happen at the party. Like they're going to, you know that they want to have an orgy. They're kind of talking about it. You know that alcohol is going to be present. And then when they're preparing, they're like smashing up pills. And I thought that was the girl's medication. I thought they had to that's part of the routine is they have to smash it up so that they can either feed it to her or put it in a drinks for her to drink. But they ended up putting this in the alcohol. And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was medication. I don't know if it was drugs. I don't recall them actually specifying what it was. But it's like, okay, these kids are going to get fucked up. Essentially is what I was taking away from that. But anyway, so yeah, there has been an escalation of kind of like sexual trauma that they're inflicting on this girl. So we get to the party. Everyone is just drinking, obviously, and they've all got these masks on with big noses. People start pairing off, going and hooking up. It's really awkward. This is like the last solid 30 minutes of the movie. And it's a lot of just watching people like dance. It's kind of that 60s, 70s movie thing where you're watching. It's like leading up to sex. So you're watching a lot of like people like dancing over here and these people on the couch hooking up. And then this person lays down and they're kind of rubbing them. And then this person pulls away. And it's a lot of the stuff where I'm like, dude, come on. This is just, this is so much of just like observing a party. But it's a movie. Anyways, a lot of people start leaving. They start pairing off, hooking up, going away, or just leaving. And then eventually the neighbor guy who the sister was like meeting, it's really, the movie was kind of leading up to them hooking up this Saturday, where she kept like reeling him in, getting him excited, and then being like, oh, let's save it for Saturday. And so you kind of feel like maybe she's going to hook up with him, or maybe she's going to try and pawn him off onto her sister. And he even did say, who is that other girl who's really cute? And you're like, oh, you mean my sister? Oh, well, you wouldn't like her. She's boring. She doesn't talk. She doesn't do anything. All she does is eat and sleep. But anyways, he gets like really fucked up. And by the way, everybody's like hooking up. So like the one girl's boyfriend is hooking up and this person is hooking up over here. But anyways, this guy gets really like intoxicated and passes out. And so they drag him upstairs and put him in bed with the sister, with Lucile. And they like, she's basically in her bra, and they like drape her arm over. All she can do is look. They're like, oh, that should be good enough for now. Or I forgot how they put it, but they're like insinuating that that's going to lead to something else. I'm like, what do you mean? And then the boyfriend who was trying to hook up with this one girl, she eventually was just like, you pig, and left. And so then he goes into the room where the two are lying in bed and the one guy's passed out, and he's like trying to test to see if the guy's awake. And I'm thinking, oh god, he's gonna like do something to Lucile, obviously. And he's like fucking with the guy to see if he's awake. And eventually the guy does kind of wake up, and he's like, what the fuck is going on? And he grabs his stuff and leaves. And then the boyfriend picks up Lucile. I'm thinking like, okay, he's gonna like manhandle her or do something. And he brings her back down to the party and lays her down, insinuating that he wants her to be a part of the action or something. And earlier in the movie, the boyfriend and Elisa did have sex in the backseat of a car while Lucile was like placed in the window watching them. Like, so that has already happened. And then he's like on her and he feeds her something like a drug. And then he just decides, I don't want to hook up with the invalid. And he's like trying to hook up with the cousins. He also seems like he's getting kind of fucked up. And then they decide to, I don't understand this at all, but they basically tie a cord around his neck, run it through the ceiling, and start yanking this dude up and like hanging him. And they're just like, ha 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 ha. They're killing this guy. And then he dies and they fall asleep. And they wake up the next day like, oh man, what a bender. And they freak out. because they killed a guy and they're trying to dispose of the body. And I should have mentioned this earlier in the movie when the girls were preparing for the party. Elisa like found a key and she was trying to see what it opened, and she couldn't find any matches, and she went down into the basement and found like a chest. And then later her aunt, the mom, like freaked out at her, like don't like, what are you doing with that key, like don't be snooping around, like stay out of the basement, stay away from that chest, it's filled with like legal documents related to I think it had to do with like the child that died, or basically it's just like it's documents that they're very important, like I need those, like just stop messing around. Well, back to the aftermath of the party, the cousins decide that they will have to dispose of the evidence, but Lucile was there the whole time and she witnessed it. But again, it's like, but she doesn't talk, so why are you freaking out? Unless you do something to wake her up. And so they grab the trunk, the chest out of the, I guess it's more of a trunk. They grab it out of the basement, they open it, they pull the stuff out, they pull those boxes in there out, they get the body in there, and they try to get it away. And then Elisa's like, I'll take care of Lucile. And she goes up to the bedroom. They've put her back in the bedroom. She goes up there and she puts the doll at the foot of the bed, and she's just terrorizing her cousin. I don't understand what she's trying to achieve. Again, she can't do anything. So wouldn't you think that just overwhelming her emotionally would like probably have a negative result, cause her to wake up, versus causing her to have like a heart attack and die or something? But anyways, she's terrorizing her, has the doll at the edge of the bed, and then she opens the box. And this is what I mean in the last video where I said, or one of the earlier videos where I said you kind of have to dig in. I didn't fully dig in with this movie, and I guessed what was going to happen like 30 seconds before it happened. She starts like opening this box, and I was like, the dead brother is going to be in there. And she opens it, and you just see her like freak out, and you see a freaking a little skeleton inside the box. And then it does a flashback, and we see that this was the event that caused Lucile to become the way she is. Her mother was basically like, get a good look at your brother, like don't ever forget him. And she fainted, and this is the way she's been ever since. And so Elisa puts the box at the edge of the bed, leaned forward so Lucile can see it. Lucile's now looking at this, freaking out, breathing heavily. Elisa goes out. Lo and behold, what would you think would happen based off of what this movie's been setting up? Lucile all of a sudden is like, mommy. She can start talking. She gets up, struggles to move across the room because, her limbs have atrophied after not being used for over a decade, however long it's been. I do think that she still had some good mobility despite that. I'm like, you would not be able to move at all. She gets to the phone, calls the police, and meanwhile we see Elisa outside, and she seems like she's fucked up. Like, eyes are frozen in terror, as tears coming down her face. She seems like, I don't know if she's gonna go full Lucile, but she's definitely fucked up. Anyways, then we just kind of jump in time, and we see Lucile with the neighbor boy, and they're like on vacation somewhere, and then they just get up and run off, over the beach, and they're just living happily ever after, and that's it. And I gotta say, like, the ending got me. Like, the last 10 minutes of the movie was enjoyable, especially leading up to like, what the fuck are they gonna do to this girl? And then it's like, oh, they're just, okay, why are they murdering the boyfriend? I guess it's because they're on drugs. I don't know. I mean, you gotta remember, this is also a 70s movie, so it could be that whole don't do drugs thing. And then the whole thing with the dead baby and the dead skeleton in the box, I was like, okay, that's interesting. But generally speaking, this is not usually the type of movie I like. I know there are some movies that do either deal with like invalids or deal with it's this kind of like Cinderella-y thing, except again, girl can't do anything. It's not a bad movie. Definitely for me, it's the weakest of the 4 films so far, but I would say it was like, the script was fine based off of what it was. The script was well written. It seemed well enough acted. I didn't really have any problems. I didn't think it was like bad. It just wasn't really great. The direction was fine. The music was really good. The music was really, really good. Then that actually was something else I wanted to point out. There was some really good creepy music, especially when things were getting starting to pick up, and it actually started sounding like, I was like, is that supposed to be a car outside? And I'm like, oh, no, it's just like a droning. But this is something I wanted to point out. The scene where Lucile is like thrown in the bed with the neighbor guy who's like passed out, and then the boyfriend comes in, kicks him out, and then he looks like he's about to assault her. The music is just that very kind of like late 60s, early 70s kind of like, it's just kind of like groovy a little bit, having fun. I'm just like, dude, this music does not work for a scene that's potentially about to lead to someone being assaulted. It did not go that direction, and I understand the whole art of juxtaposition, but I was like, this just seems so bizarre. Anyways, yeah, this was a fine movie. I honestly don't really see myself rewatching this, being like, I'm gonna put on The Cousins again. But yeah, no, it was fine, and I guarantee some people will probably like this more than me. But some people who are on the same wavelength as me might think, yeah, that was the weakest one. But hey, to each their own. And yeah, that is all I really got to say about. There you go. That is all I really got to say about this movie. Yeah, you know what? Like I said, a lot of movies that also just lead with like it's a lesbian, it's some lesbian action. It's like, yeah, you know what? With how pervasive it is to see anything like that on the internet at like, you know, in 10 seconds, it's not that impressive. And I understand the whole evolution of film where it's like, well, you understand you couldn't really see this, and this is also at a time where sexual liberation, and I get all that. But for me, in terms of entertainment, I'm just like, fast forward, okay, it's done. This is what it is. Anyways, y'all, I have one more. I got one more French movie here in the Ténèbres Françaises, and we will see. I think at the end of that one, I will probably give a little bit more thorough review of my ranking with the movies, just because it feels weird to just do a whole new one, just ranking them. But yeah, and then I will try to give a little product review for this. That's all I got to say. So leave your questions, thoughts, curiosities, or concerns in the comment section. As always, I will get back to you. Let me know if you've seen The Cousins, and we'll go from there. And yeah, other than that, this is Tanner Leeser for The King in Giallo, and if nothing else, y'all, I'll see you at the next one. Thank you for watching.
Le plus joli maintenant. Madame Butterfly et ses 2 boys chinois. Ils sont pas mignons, ces 2 petits?